There's definitely more on the horizon. I don't honestly know what that looks like for me. I know my skill set. I know what I am, gifted at, but I also know where I lack too. So it's maybe finding the right people to work with and kind of build that dream.
Hey there, high performers. This is Dr. Josh Funk. In this podcast, I will be interviewing people from the sports and business world who have experienced hardship and come out on top. Through their challenges, strategies, and mindset, I hope that it will give you the tools you need to perform for life. Hey everybody, hope you're having a beautiful day. I am very, very excited to bring to you somebody who I have gotten to know in the past, probably about a year or so, either through CrossFit or the Lululemon Ambassador program over at Downtown Crown. But this is Tammy Dillman. She is with Gold's Gym, and she's also the lead at the Gold's Fit program. Happy to have you today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
So you have been somebody who I would say in the past 2 years, I've seen you probably on a personal level be able to push yourself in the gym. I think you do a tremendous job of pushing the people that you're working with. And then for brief periods, just see your role as a mother. I think it's so hard in today's world to be able to be a high achiever in multiple areas of life. And that seems to be something that you have done very, very good job of. I know that's not always easy, and it probably wasn't something that happened overnight. Tell us a little bit about your just upbringing and maybe what eventually pushed you in a direction where fitness became a significant part of your life and eventually a career.
I was actually born and raised in Nebraska, Midwestern girl. That's where I graduated high school. And I really wasn't involved in a lot of sports in high school. I loved to dance and I did a lot of singing. I also played golf. And during my junior high days, I really started to struggle with body image. And for me, it was something that happened overnight. One day, I didn't think about it and how I looked. And I woke up the next day and I didn't like who I was. I really spent the next, honestly, 10 years from the time that I was 14 to the time that I was about 28, just up and down from anorexia to bulimia. And just the roller coaster of that, I don't remember a time when it wasn't in my life. And that's what I put all my worth in. That's who I was. And even being raised in a Christian home, I wasn't able to see myself, for who God saw me to be. That was unfortunate, but I just could not break that barrier. And I know my mom was such a significant part of my life. She prayed so hard for me that I would come out on the other side. And really right now, I should probably have heart conditions with what I've put my body through. And as I moved through my life and into college, I did get more into athletics. I started to run. I started to take group classes when I was first married. I did that as well. I started to take cycle classes. And before you know it, people were encouraging me to get certified, which I did. And then, a real turning point for me is when I became a mom and I kind of had to decide, do I still want to hurt myself this way? And is this how I want to be for my kids? So continued down the fitness path and still dabble a little bit in the unhealthy behavior, but started to, when I was teaching for others, helping them, I think in turn helped me. So I started down that avenue of teaching a lot, and I ended up having my second child. I got into triathlons for a while. That was a lot of fun. But again, for me, almost everything I've ever done has been a little obsessive. There's no middle ground for me. And that's something that I have learned in recent years. And when I went to Gold's, I've been at Gold's for about, I was there even before they were Gold's, when they were Fitness First. And when they came to me with this program, it was really out of my comfort zone because I had just been teaching, regular classes. And they told me, Tammy, this program has your name all over it. So I took a chance because I actually had another job offer at the time, but something in my gut told me, no, you got to wait this out. It's a CrossFit style based fitness. It's functional fitness, but it's driven by community. And that's where the turning point was for me, because I realized it was more than a workout. And for my whole life, everything had always been about the workout, about the calorie burn. But now it was about community, and it was also helping people reach those goals. Now, that doesn't mean that I haven't continued to work at that high level, because I want to. I want to push myself.
You do.
Absolutely. And I want to, and I will continue to, but it's been a therapy for me to help people to dive into their potential and realize that they can accomplish things that they didn't otherwise, accomplish.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you've thought about this, but you're probably a role model for a lot of people. I know you probably consider yourself to be a role model for your daughters, but also for the people that you work with on a regular basis. You start with them in a wide variety of different starting points. They have a wide variety of different goals. I think you do a great job of connecting with people and potentially recognizing maybe where they are, what they need the most. What are some indicators or things that maybe people need to recognize more when it comes to the conversations surrounding body image and potential eating disorders?
I think that what I want people to know is it's there. Everybody struggles with it. And working with especially women over the course of the last, 20 years from when I was really young, is that everybody struggles with it in a different way. And sometimes it's something that women don't talk about. They don't talk about the struggle because it's easy to get to the gym. That's the easy part. It's hard to try to live up to that standard that society a lot of times puts on us. This is how you should look. This is, it's hard. Yeah. It's hard. And it's, I'm raising daughters too. And I wanted to, do things a little bit different. I wanted them to be active and love their bodies, whatever that means for them. But it's sometimes, for the moms out there, it's a slippery slope. It's like, how much do we say? What don't we say? Trying to get them to just live that healthy lifestyle and move and eat well.
Right. And I think, having talked to you before about this a little bit, focusing on what their body can do instead of what it looks like, right? In terms of performance or an output or what happened during a workout. Talked a little bit about Liz earlier with regards to Orange Theory, and then a focus on things like body composition instead of the scale. What is our overall makeup, knowing that 150 pounds can look significantly different on a wide variety of different people. So what are some of the conversations that you find yourself having, not only with your daughters or people you're working with, but sometimes maybe conversations you used to even have with yourself?
I think for one, like looking at your performance. Like, are you eating to perform? Especially, I think my generation, I'm in my mid 40s. I feel like I've lived through it all. It was the don't eat and be skinny. Talking to women about what's your goal and empowering them to know that lifting heavy weights is pretty cool. Yeah. What are you able to accomplish? How are you going outside what you ever thought you could do? And as we get older, the weightlifting it's more important, and the functional training than just cardio all day long. But I try to tap into that with women. What are your goals? Like, what are your goals? And I think that sometimes it's hard because we've been fed all this stuff for so many years. But I do see the tide shifting, because I think that it's more about performance and being strong now. And I see that in my girls, and that's what they want. And it's a very different mindset than I had when I was 13 and when I was 16.
I see my sister trying to do that a little bit with her two little girls, much younger than yours, Quinn and Kendall. And she continually reminds them, you're strong, you're smart. So sometimes these affirmations, in terms of things that we're vocalizing to people, we're almost creating a new narrative in them. Are there certain things that you've been able to pick up on through interactions where you're hearing people write their own narratives that maybe are warning signals or signs where somebody should maybe ask better questions when interacting with them, and maybe putting them in a situation where they are going and seeking help?
Absolutely. I've always had a heart for women when I see those warning signs, and the biggest thing that I do is I tell people my story. I think a lot of people think that they look at me and they're like, oh my gosh, she's been fit her whole life. Lucky her. I mean, if I started getting out the photo album and showed people the yo-yo that I've been on and what it's taken for my body to trust where I am and for my metabolism to level. So when I talk to people, I share my story because sometimes that's the best thing you can do is level with them and say, hey, I get where you are. I get the struggle. And those are the best conversations that I've really had with so many people is that like, I get it. It's real, and showing them, where I've been and how they can overcome this, and that they're not alone. They're not alone.
Yeah. And I think, once again, mentioning that you do a good job of connecting with people. And I think that by connecting with people, we're able to have this greater influence on them. You not only took, recognizing you liked fitness, being able to connect with people, you've turned that into a career where you went not only from the instructor, but now you're leading a program. Women in business is still a challenging subject and a tough, there's some stereotypes that are still surrounding women in business as a whole. Do you find, any of the struggles that you've gone through to kind of get where you're at? Maybe we're not going to call you an entrepreneur, so to speak, but I keep hearing about this word intrapreneur, right? You're in charge of a small business underneath of a business. Do you have any challenges or stories that you feel like are relevant that, maybe prevented you a little bit from getting to that position that you're in sooner?
I think for me, the timing was right. I was actually home with my girls in their early years, but it has definitely been a juggling match to work full time because anything that I do, I throw my heart and soul into and try to do the same for my family. So it's, I would say I've kind of reached probably my peak in the last few months that, I need some time for me. That's probably what I don't do enough is take that time for me. I don't regret anything.
What does that look like? What does time for you look like? I think that looks very, very different for a lot of people, knowing that you're juggling all of these different areas, right? Being a good wife, being a good mom, and then being good to your team and your community of people. What allows you to disconnect and kind of get back to baseline?
That's kind of a hard question right now because to level with you, I haven't been doing a good job. I have not been doing a good job at that. With the recent events, I am home right now and I'm trying to use some of that time for myself. What does that look like when I get it? It's silence. It's no music in the car. It's just so I can be alone with my thoughts. I have music blasting all day and I have people coming at me left and right, which I wouldn't have in any other way. But for me, that rejuvenating has actually become more just that alone time.
I can definitely relate to that.
I can't imagine. I went on a walk today and I walked for an hour with no music and it was wonderful.
And you just let whatever seep into your head and you just heard yourself and you just owned it.
Yes. And that was major growth.
It's kind of crazy that being extroverts.
Exactly.
Sometimes shifting to our most introverted self is exactly what we need to continue to be the best extrovert.
Yes. And it's only in recent years that have figured that out.
Yeah.
Because I used to just be, what's next? Where I crave that time to just do nothing.
We can be the worst listeners to ourselves when we spend a lot of time talking to and listening to other people all day. And that's something I've definitely realized, whether or not it's like popping into yoga. I like that you mentioned going for a walk or going for a hike. And I'll be honest, I almost every single time that I'm going home at the end of the day, I will turn everything off in the car and I will just drive. And that's it. And sometimes that's the best. And I've even gotten better. Right now, I can't because I feel like things are just flying at me, changing very, very quickly given the current public health situation. But turning my phone off at night is also another big thing where I'm getting rid of noise. I'm getting rid of occupying my mind with things and allowing my thoughts to just kind of come in and what am I thinking? How am I feeling? What do I need to do? I remember going through periods of time where I was struggling a little bit with regards to just business. I felt like I was busy. And I was having trouble sleeping. And I would actually end up sitting, writing all my thoughts in a journal at night. And it just allowed me to have a better appreciation for what was going on during the day and what exactly I was feeling, or what I thought that I needed to be doing, or whether or not I thought I was actually getting anywhere or not getting anywhere. And I think that aspect of self-reflection was, I was journaling before I really even, like I have now, I have an actual 5-minute journal that I'll dive into. I can't say every day, but most days. Do you find anything critical to your routine right now that allows you to juggle all of these different aspects of your life and not run into a situation where you are getting burnt out?
When I allow for quiet time and I can spend some time like in scripture for me, because I am a Christian, and just to meditate on that, which I don't always take time for, but when I do, or when I pray, that really helps me. That's probably the biggest thing for me.
That's good. I mean, it's not that much different, right, than like reading, journaling,
right.
Once again, listening to yourself. Given everything that's going on right now, in addition, we're in the fitness industry. I know that I'm medically slanted, but we're still a fitness-focused company. We work with a lot of our fitness partners. Unfortunately, the fitness industry has really, really been hurt, to be quite honest, and it's going to be a little bit of a struggle to probably get back online. What are some things that you find yourself doing to make the most of this increased free time? And where do you see people doing things that you feel like are positive and productive, and that are going to allow them to ideally get back online sooner as a result of what they're doing now?
Just the last few days, just being outside with my kids and seeing people moving and taking walks and doing things together. This is not a good situation, but there is little tidbits of good that have come out of it, because we have been forced, in a sense, to slow down and just to slow down. It's mind-boggling to me not to have something on my schedule, because that's how I live. And it's been a kind of an eye-opener for me, I think we all feel that way to a certain extent. To get up in the morning for me right now, and just to get up in the morning, and I'm not running out the door for the last few days. It's strange.
I can definitely relate. I'm normally wake up in the morning, the alarm's at a certain time. I know how much time it takes me to get ready in the morning. I know how much time it takes me to get to this place. And I would argue the only thing that I've been doing is, unfortunately, sleeping a little bit less than I normally do, because it's very, very challenging to just almost feel like I'm like just waiting for the next big bit of news to go on. But definitely dealing with more of an erratic schedule at this point, things that are less predictable. I don't feel like I'm fully doing things that I think are the best utilization of my time. Instead, I feel like I'm trying to provide Band-Aids or temporary fixes. Yes, it is forcing us to innovate a little bit with the addition of telehealth. We even created a telework option for one of our front desk people, so that she could answer phones, schedule, do certain things from home. But it's certainly been one of those times where, you get forced into a completely new routine. And for me, honestly, it's been almost an absence of a routine, but there's still stuff that it's going on the calendar. With regards to, it's funny you brought this up, but like people being outside and people connecting. Sometimes I think we're just so busy that we just lose that connectivity side of things. And in addition, it's actually weird to see a lot of people outside, because I honestly don't feel like I see people outside that often. You mentioned family. You've got active daughters now. They're focusing more on just like performance. What were some things that you did as a mom that have kind of created like physical activity and the culture of physicality to be something that they all value over the years, and now to being the point where they're young females? I
think for one thing, that seeing me active was what they saw from day one. I took my girls to the gym the day that I could when they were 6 weeks old, and they were little gym rats in the care center. So they saw me active, and I just wanted them to move their bodies. So I tried to expose them to as much as possible. My one daughter didn't have a lot of time for that because she got into swimming and it really took off. With my other daughter, I really tried to expose her to as much as I can. I think swimming's still going to be her first love, but it's interesting because I don't think it was ever really for them because they saw me so active and our family's that way. My husband, all our kids, it's just what we do. So I think that made it easier. I didn't have to tell my kids this week. They just got up and went out for runs because they want to move. You know, that brings me joy because.
No, I mean, it was one of those things that it almost sounds easy because it's all they've really ever known, right? They
Correct.
Woke up and, hey,
Correct.
Oh, this is what we do. It's like waking up and sitting down at the table for breakfast in the morning. Oh,
Right.
This is what we do. This is where we eat. Okay.
Right. But there's also been pivotal points where it's always a matter of, where do I share? Where do I don't, with where I've been and being able to do that and also telling them, how proud I am of them for, loving their bodies and just being happy. Again, I say with moving, regardless of they're very high performers, but trying to tone it down and also be about, look, this is going to carry you through your life. This is why you want to move. This is why we want to be functional so that someday you can do the same with your kids,
Competitive swimming is going to end at some point.
It is.
Right. And then what? Hopefully you'd still like to just swim.
Right. And, right now for them, it's ended right now.
Yeah.
So they're having to find other things to do and they're doing it. They're doing it. So I think that's a good sign.
It's still hard to imagine that seniors in high school and seniors in college that have spring sports will never get to potentially have that.
This is It's heartbreaking. It's
wild.
Heartbreaking.
Yeah. I mean, it's just kind of crazy. For you, you're getting to a point where your daughters are going off to college soon. Are you looking to potentially second career, preparing yourself for anything? I can only speak from my side of things. I know that when my mom and my last sibling went off to college, there was kind of this, hey, now I get me time. You mentioned not having enough time for yourself. What does life look like potentially in a couple years when you have more time for yourself? Because you'll have this aspect where you've put all of your time and energy into, and it almost be, I don't want to say finished product when they go off to college, but they're certainly a lot more autonomous and there's probably a little bit more sense of a relief, and you have time to not drive people to practice or go to a swim meet on the weekends.
Yeah. I mean, I do. It's kind of hard to think about that because I'm so engulfed in the life that I am right now, but there's definitely more on the horizon. I don't honestly know what that looks like for me. I know my skill set. I know what I am, gifted at, but I also know where I lack too. So it's maybe finding the right people to work with and kind of build that dream.
Is there anything that you feel like you need to focus on or work on the most? Being somebody who's invested a lot into yourself over the years with regards to being, you've worked through some challenges. You've been aware enough to pull yourself out of those, out of those particular tough moments. You are still aware that sometimes things are going on that, you're not that far beyond where your history was, and that you're ideally continuing to distance yourself and improve yourself. Where do you feel like you're going to see yourself improving the most, say, over the next year, 2 years, to potentially get yourself where you're ready for some of those next things in your life?
I think I'll get myself to a healthier internal place. Okay. Yeah. I'm physically healthy, but I see myself focusing on and fixing some things I need to fix internally.
That's good. It's good.
Kind of deep, but it's the truth. Yeah. I tend to dive in and fix everybody else. And I don't always delegate the best. And I take on a lot. And I think that's definitely a growth for me, is finding that balance. And I know we talked about a little bit, finding that time for yourself.
It's hard.
Unless it's forced, like right now.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. Right. So I'm trying to learn to do that.
Yeah. It's really challenging. I mean, I can at least speak. I do not have kids. So I certainly take something off my plate, but I know that when work mode is going, I can just think of probably 3 separate situations from a work standpoint where I feel like I was just like, I get depleted at the end of the week. Like first opening the business, had no clue what I was doing a ton, but nothing really that productive all the time. So I would remember just coming home and I would just be exhausted and just feeling like I honestly wasn't my best self, right? Where you're not sure like, God, am I even happy doing this? And then another period of time, we opened up the second location. There was a ton of hiccups that occurred. I actually didn't get paid for the first 3 months of that location, which was awful. I was probably the least sleep that I got in a week period. I think there was 1 week where I don't know if I slept like a full 30 hours, which is kind of crazy looking back on it. But those periods of time, I think one of the downfalls to being somebody who is kind of like all in and like a high achiever is like you're focused so much on output and a result and accomplishment that you really lose sight of yourself during these things.
Absolutely.
And I've recognized like more and more like, gosh, like when I'm at my best for myself, I'm so much better for other people. I'm just a generally happier person. I'm nicer. I can handle much more like challenging moments without being potentially too direct. Like when I've got very little sleep and I'm wrapped up in my head, become too direct of a communicator. I'm not incredibly enjoyable to be around. And some people that know me well will probably laugh and listening to this conversation. But in order for me to be at my best, and I've just at least been fortunate the past probably 2 years where I've focused a lot more on listening and learning, it has allowed me to finally, buff some areas that maybe weren't quite my best and spend more time working on those things. But finally, because I took a little bit of time for myself, that's involved me waking up a little bit earlier in the morning, doing a little bit of journaling and making sure that I work out first. And that as long as I do those 2 things in the morning, I know how I'm feeling when I start the day. I know that I got my workout out of the way. And I think this is the hardest part for me over the course of the past week is been out of my routine.
Right.
I could work out at our rehab to perform plays in the morning, but admittedly, I've been trying to get telehealth up and running the past couple of days. And every time I wake up, I feel like I'm just refining and buffing it out, and ideally putting it in a better situation. But the uncertainty has certainly thrown me off my routine. I can't go to the normal fitness gyms that I like to go to, some that are, really, really close to my house. But it's been a struggle. You notice that it's just small difference, right? Gyms are closed. I'm off my routine, but yep. I already feel like I'm not necessarily being at my best self. So I can definitely relate to that. Do you see anything when it comes to women in sports, women in business, something that you feel like is still, that we're going to see change ideally for people like your daughters over the next, say, 10 to 20 years?
I think I kind of alluded to it a little bit earlier, is I think that women are starting to look more at performance. We had one of my daughter's friends that is a collegiate athlete that are home yesterday. We had some just really good conversations on how just being a collegiate athlete has kind of shifted her mindset, that it is where everything, prior sometimes was so aesthetic, and that it's about performance now. And, her body has changed, but she's strong and she's doing what she set out to do. And it was really cool to have my 4 girls sitting there and listening to that, and then just beyond talking a little bit, beyond the sport, it's not just performance in life.
Absolutely.
So, but we were talking just because she's a little bit older than my girls, just how we're seeing the shift, strong is the new skinny.
I like it.
Right? I'm sure you've heard that, but it makes me, it's awesome.
Right.
And I love having those conversations with people.
It's so challenging in the world of social media nowadays.
It is.
With girls
It is.
About that
Oh,
age.
it is. It is.
Between the bullying or just the other stuff that they see, and then what unfortunately will get likes. It's
a whole nother layer that we didn't have to deal with.
Right. So, well, hey, I want to thank you for your time today, but I also want to give people an opportunity to reach out and connect with you. Where's the best place for people to find you and to engage with you?
my regular Facebook page. They can message me there, Tammy Dillman.
Okay.
My Gold's Gym Only Studio Facebook page. That's just a lot about what I'm doing at my job, and we'd love to have you come and check it out. That's really the best way to get a hold of me.
Okay.
I'm a little bit older. Yes, I have Instagram.
I was waiting for Instagram there, but
yeah,
no, all right.
Tammy Dillman on
okay.
Instagram, but yeah, my kids roll their eyes when I say that.
She's on there just to be monitoring. Oh, sorry, I'm not supposed to say that. All right, well, hey, thank you very much for your time today, and I know we're both crossing our fingers that things start to change a little bit, especially public health wise, and then
absolutely
for the business side of things too.
All right, thank you so much, Josh. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you for listening to the High Performers Podcast. We want to encourage you to join the conversation, access the show notes, and catch our latest episodes on the website. Please head to highperformerspodcast.com. And if you enjoyed the podcast, we'd love for you to subscribe, rate, and give us a review on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, thanks again for listening.